Hey guys, Bud25 here, watching the launch of EchoStar-18 and BRIsat. I think that's how they pronounce it. But there we go. Ariane Space. And I think even Bob himself in the Olympics does not want this thing to get off the ground. It's been postponed so many times.
Bien, mesdames et messieurs, chers amis, dear customers, dear colleagues. So welcome tonight for this launch. It will be the third with Ariane 5 in 2016. You know that we will carry tonight two satellites, EchoStar-18 for our customer Dish, and this satellite will expand broadcast satellite to continental US, Alaska and Hawaii, and BRIsat for BRE. It is the first satellite entirely dedicated to financial services, and it will help to broaden services for 53 million people. Tonight, this launch will be the 230th launch from Ariane, here from CSG. It is the first time Ariane will carry two SSL satellites, and we are very excited about that. And last but not least, we will have a record performance of 9 tons, 840 kilos. So, as explained by Bernard a few minutes ago, the weather is okay, so we should have no issue regarding the weather tonight. Final operations of the chronology have been smoothly, and in the context of this final operation, we have slightly rescheduled the H0, so the H0 will be at 5:45 Kourou time, 5:45 plus 15 minutes as opposed to the previous H0. Launch window will last up to 6:40 Kourou time, and two key events for sure to monitor: the separation of EchoStar-18 after 29 minutes and 20 seconds, and the separation of BRIsat after 42 minutes and 5 seconds. So now we are just ready for this launch. I wish to all of you a very good show, and we will come back in a few minutes. Thank you very much.
For this one here. BRIsat for PT bank left. B8230. Let's begin.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Harry Thibodeau, and I welcome our global audience to Kourou, French Guiana for tonight's launch. We're coming to you live from the Jupiter Launch Control Center, about 13 kilometers, 8 miles from the pad. There you see the star of tonight's broadcast, the Ariane 5 ECA, weighing in at 780 tons. Everything is going good, but of course you heard we will experience a slight modification in the actual launch time. We'll talk about that in a minute. The launcher stands 50 meters high. The booster is 30 meters high, roughly two-thirds of the weight of the entire vehicle. There you see we have indeed gone red on the count. We will continue that count to the 7-minute mark, and then we'll explain more about that. The vehicle equipment bay, computers control the flight from there. It's redundant, so the mission can go on if one fails. Upper passenger tonight, EchoStar-18 for Dish Network. It weighs in 6.3 tons. It will be separated first. Below it is BRIsat, 3.5 tons. A customer, PT Bank Rakyat of Indonesia, and both built by Space Systems L'Oreal. In between is the Silda. We'll talk more about that. There is Stefan Israel and others in the Flight Directorate. You heard from him earlier. He's Chairman and CEO of Ariane Space. You also see Roland Lagier as Senior VP of Engineering for Ariane Space. They and others are dedicated to the safe launch of EchoStar-18. Let's hear about EchoStar-18 now.
EchoStar-18 will be the fourth spacecraft launched by Arianespace for Dish Network since 1996, and we are very proud of the confidence Dish and EchoStar put in Arianespace systems reliability.
EchoStar-18 is the newest addition to the fleet for our customer, U.S.-based pay-TV provider Dish. The Dish direct broadcast satellite service recently celebrated 20 years of providing the highest quality programming and technology to their customers. EchoStar-18 is a high-power, high-capacity satellite transmitting more than 100 spot beams. It is the 13th satellite manufactured by SSL for EchoStar and Dish, and it serves the largest number of market areas of any SSL-built satellite. EchoStar-18 is the fifth satellite in our fleet that is launched on an Ariane. EchoStar-18 will augment the current Dish coverage, assuring the highest level of ongoing service to their nearly 14 million customers. After handover, EchoStar will provide operations and control services for the satellite from our operations centers in Cheyenne, Wyoming and Gilbert, Arizona. As we prepare for the launch of EchoStar-18, we'd like to say thank you to the many people at SSL, Arianespace, EchoStar and Dish who made the EchoStar-18 program a success.
As we return to Jupiter, great shot of the Ariane 5 ECA. The weather is perfect, but again, as you heard, we will be experiencing a slight delay tonight to get all the work done. It will be time to hear in a moment about BRIsat, but we remind you that that is a satellite for a private bank, first time ever.
BRIsat is the first satellite dedicated for a bank communication network, and BRI is making a history by launching and operating its own satellite.
The satellite will operate from its orbital position at 150.5 degrees east and will deliver highly reliable communication services to more than BRI's 10,000 banks branches across the Indonesian archipelago.
BRIsat has 36 C-band transponders and 9 Ku-band transponders with the coverage of Indonesia, Southeast Asia, and Northeast Asia. I would like to express my appreciation to Space System Laurel as the manufacturer that has been done such a tremendous job finishing the satellite right on schedule. And I also would like to thank Arianespace for their excellent support during this launch campaign.
Thank you, Bank Rakyat Indonesia, for your confidence, and long life to BRIsat satellite.
And as we return to Jupiter, we see more of the key Arianespace officials responsible for the mission and the range operation. We're closing in on a critical milestone, the 7-minute mark, and a special announcement from the DDO.
À tous de DDO, arrêt du décompte suite à un rouge ensemble de lancement. Que tous les moyens restent prêts pour la reprise de la chronologie à H0-7 minutes en cas de retour au vert.
Okay, there you heard the announcement from the DDO. We have stopped the count at the 7-minute mark. And as you heard from Stefan Israel earlier, we just need a little more time for the teams to get everything in order tonight for the launch. Reds are perfectly normal here at Kourou. It's a normal part of the launch process. We do not fly until everything is in order. Tonight the crews just need a little more time to finish the final preparations. You know, like a good wine, you never drink it before it's time. And it's the same with the Ariane 5. We never rush anything. We have an hour and 10-minute launch window tonight, so stay with us. Back very soon with our broadcast coverage this evening. You see that
Chronologie.
DDO here. So DDO about to announce that we will be resuming the countdown. We had a hold to allow our teams to get everything in order.
Début de la séquence finale lanceur.
Well, there it
Le
is.
nouvel H0 est 20h44 minutes 0 secondes. Je répète, 20h44 minutes 0 secondes.
He's announcing that we have resumed moved into the synchronized sequence. Computers now taking more and more control, poring over the data to make sure that everything is fine. Human hands can stop it at any time, of course, but over a month's worth of work has gone in to being sure that we are set to go for tonight's launch. And we will also be part of that work, of course, is being done to be sure that everything is perfect for tonight's launch. And there you see the beautiful Ariane 5 ECA as she stands on the launch pad. Actually, a pretty nice evening here in Kourou, and there is the status panels that adorn the facility here at Jupiter. Everything is green now, and the weather is good, so we are making our way through the countdown. I've actually been here for a couple of weeks now because of the earlier delays in the launch, and we've had some rain, but certainly today is a good day to fly, and we are all green here at Jupiter. History, of course, being made tonight as the Ariane 5 ECA launches its heaviest payload ever, 10,730 kilograms this evening. That is 23,586 pounds for those of you back in the U.S. EchoStar-18 weighs 6,300 kilos, 2.2 pounds. And BRIsat weighs 3,540 kilos. The remainder is the Silda and the support structures. At the 4-minute and 40-minute mark, things continue to go well. That weight, by the way, is 337 kilograms heavier than our previous record. That was set back on VA212 back in February of 2013. Engineers worked extremely hard to squeeze out the additional performance from the Ariane 5 ECA. They've done a great job, and tonight, again, we will be making history again here in Kourou. What a beautiful shot as we hit the 4-minute mark before the launch. And again, everything remains green and set to go for this evening's launch. We're on the North Shore of South America, right on the shore of the Atlantic Ocean. Well, another place that's very busy right now, the Launch Control Center. We call it the CDL-3. The launch management teams are working under the direction of the Launch Operations Manager, the COIL. 4 teams are working together there. One is responsible for the launch operations, a second for the flight readiness of the Ariane 5. A third follows the countdown from a quality point of view, ensuring it adheres to established procedures. And a fourth oversees safety of the people and the facilities in the launch zone. In all, about 100 people work there at CDL-3. They're very close to the pad, about 3 kilometers away. I've been there several times. The walls are a meter thick to protect them. Those teams carry out all the checks and validations down to liftoff. Everything's got to be perfect or we do not fly tonight. Once the launchers left the pad, the work of those guys is all done. It all remains green in the countdown right now. Great shot again of the Ariane 5 we just saw. It's the 86th Ariane 5 launch. Been a total of 251 launches from Kourou, 6 Vegas, 15 Soyuz, 230 Ariane launches, 11 Ariane 1s, 6 Ariane 2s, 11 Ariane 3s, 116 of the great Ariane 4s, and 86 Ariane 5s. We see that we have another red in the countdown. We have just gone red again. And again, as we told you, that's an entirely normal part of the process.
Ensemble de lancement, le temps des comptes est arrêté à H0 moins 7 minutes.
We'll cancel
And
as
the
we
DDO has just announced that we have gone red. Again, we recycle back to the 7-minute mark, by the way, if we go red once we are under 7 minutes. And that allows all the sequences to reset. Teams are now all communicating together here at Jupiter and at CDL3 and across the entire network to determine the status of the issues involved. And we will have an update shortly. But again, the key thing we like to remind people is not only is it normal, but it's planned for in the process. And both of the satellites, both EchoStar-18 and BRIsat, are maintained in perfect condition, waiting for the liftoff.
À tous les DDO, que tous les moyens restent prêts pour la reprise de la chronologie à H0-7 minutes en cas de retour au vert.
And the DDO continuing to announce we've reset to the 7-minute mark. And we await more information and when the resumption of the countdown will occur here at Jupiter. Again, it is not a weather issue. You can see, by the way, I thought I'd tell you about this. See those 4 big towers?
They're lightning
that stand
towers.
around
They're
the mighty Ariane
ones.
5 ECA? Those are lightning protection towers. And we get a lot of rain down here in French Guiana. Not that much electrical activity, but you do get some. And those towers are there to protect the Ariane 5 from any lightning strikes that may occur anywhere near the area. We can launch in rain. That's not a problem at all. Lightning, there can't be any lightning within about 10 kilometers of the launch pad, or we don't go. But that, again, is not our issue at this point. I was just running down those lists of launches. Let me just also finish that off. So 86 Ariane 5s. In addition to that, Starsem has launched 26 Soyuz missions from Baikonur, and that brings us to our grand total of 277 launches.
I'll pause the recording until count resumes.
And at this point, we are going to brief a break in our broadcast. We again remind you that a normal process ongoing now is communications between all the teams across this large space base transpire to determine the status of where we're at. So sit back. In the United States, we'd say go grab a cold one out of the refrigerator. And we're going to continue the live broadcast in just a few minutes. Maybe grab yourself a bratwurst if you're from Wisconsin. We'll continue more in just a few
I think there will be
moments.
people who find that offensive. Hello. That's opinion.
Mark. Continue our efforts tonight to launch VA-230 with EchoStar-18 and BRIsat. Again, expect to hear an announcement from the DDO coming up any moment. You could see beautiful weather here in Kourou tonight. The sun just glistens off the Ariane 5 ECA. We've done a little battle with high-level winds last night, and that was not the issue tonight at all. Just needed some additional time to do some work with the crews here in Kourou. Another gorgeous shot of that mighty Ariane 5. It is quite an e-ticket deal to stand next to the Ariane 5. And there's a model of it, a full-size one right out here outside our Jupiter launch facility. And I've taken some selfies with it, and it's pretty cool. So it is one magnificent vehicle. Again, expect an announcement shortly from the DDO. We tonight are launching the 86th Ariane 5, and the very historic launch, as we told you earlier, the heaviest combined payloads that the ECA version has ever thrown into geostationary transfer orbit. Obviously, the Ariane 5, the other version of the Ariane 5, has launched some much heavier payloads into low Earth orbit. But tonight we are going to GEO with, or GTO, with two communications payloads. Again, as we mentioned, that will be EchoStar-18, and that will dramatically expand the video transmission capabilities, including 4K television for our friends at Dish Network, because EchoStar-18 will be used by Dish Network LLC for its video service, HD video service, and DBS service all across North America. And even going to have a spot beam covering Cuba as the relationships thaw between the United States and Cuba. And for the first time ever, digital television being delivered into that country. Also, we are launching BRIsat, and BRIsat's the first satellite owned by a private bank, and it's going to cover Indonesia, the archipelago of Indonesia. And if you want to Google that at home, you'll see that there's, 17,000 islands that make up Indonesia. I was in the grocery store here in Kourou a few days ago, and I ran into the launch team from BRIsat, and we were talking a little bit about Indonesia, because I've never been there. And I said, 17,000 islands? He said, yeah, maybe 18, depending upon how you count them, what size constitutes an island. So it is spread out all across that area of the South Pacific, and satellite is the only technology that could ever be used to connect all of those islands together. Again, announcement expected relatively soon on what the next step will be here in Kourou. You see the DDO, and that is the person who will actually make the official announcement. Look at the sun glistening off the side of the fairing there. We used the 17-meter fairing tonight, one of the big ones, to take this historic payload into orbit. Always cool to look at the names on the side of the fairing, because of course each company gets to determine what they want to put on there for their logos when they're assembled here at this incredible space base. And that is one of the things that just blows people away when I talk to them about, coming down here to French Guiana. They cannot conceive what this place is like. It is absolutely amazing. I mean, over 60% of all of the communication satellites in the world have been launched from this facility here in French Guiana. And I would really urge you out there, if you don't know a lot about French Guiana, just Google it. And it's really a neat place. I've been here now 10 times, and over the last about 10 years, 8 or 10 years. And it is, it's really cool. Again, for those of you just joining us, we are in a red condition. We started the evening with a brief delay announced by Stefan Israel, where we reset the T0 for the evening, or the launch time, from 5:30 Kourou time to 5:45. When we did move back in to the count, we got down a ways and then went red again, and we are awaiting further news and further updates. We still got some time in the launch window this evening. If I wrote it down right from when Stefan mentioned it, it would be 6:40 local time, and if my watch is, well, you can see it maybe on the screen, but my watch is anywhere close to accurate, it's 6:10 here in Kourou. So we probably still have another half an hour to go or so in the launch window. And we have recycled the course back to the 7-minute mark. And that is the critical mark at which we roll into what's called the synchronized sequence. And as we mentioned earlier, the synchronized sequence is where the computers begin to take control and more control of the launch. Okay, we are going to pause again for a few moments in our broadcast coverage. So take my advice from before, and grab another cold one out of the refrigerator and stick with us. We probably got another half an hour or so that we can be here. More in a moment from Kourou.
Pour la reprise de chronologie.
Oh, they're counting again?
And as we return to Jupiter, you can see that we have now gone green again on the screen, and we are making
début de la
another
séquence
attempt.
finale lanceur.
There's the
Le
announcement
nouvel H0 est
from the DDO.
21h38 minutes. Non. Le nouvel
Announcement from the DDO that we will be resuming the count
Now things are just
shortly.
Yeah, shortly.
We
You're
are
about to run out of
green
time.
here at Kourou and waiting for the resumption of the count.
Yep, it's resumed.
And there it is, as we have now again begun
Le nouvel
the
H0
synchronized
est
sequence.
21h38 minutes 32 secondes. Je répète, 21h38 minutes 32 secondes.
If they
Ready,
don't
and
go
the
now, they're not
announcements
going
continuing
at all.
from the DDO. Computers again now taking more and more control to be sure that everything is okay. Time now to hear about the launch campaign that got us to this point this evening.
The different parts of the Ariane 5 launcher were shipped from Europe to the Periacabo port in Kourou. Launcher preparation operations began on the 21st of March in the integration building. The cryogenic main stage was removed from storage and placed in a vertical position. The 2 solid rocket boosters were also transferred. On the 1st of April, the upper cryogenic stage and the VEB were erected, and on the 3rd of May, the launcher was transferred to the final assembly building for integration of the payload.
The launch campaign started early with the arrival of the upper payload, EchoStar-18, at Félix-Éboué Airport on the 20th of April and transferred to the H5C payload facility. Mechanical and electrical check started the day after with the mechanical fit check on the 21st of April. EchoStar-18 was transferred to the fueling facilities on the 2nd of May, and propellant filling operations were performed without anomaly. BRIsat, the lower payload, landed at Félix-Éboué Airport on the 9th of May and was transferred immediately to the S5C payload facilities. After mechanical and electrical check, the spacecraft was transferred to the fueling facilities on the 20th of April. The spacecraft was fueled without anomaly from the 23rd to the 25th of May. Combined operations with launcher started with EchoStar-18 on the 10th of May with its flight mating on the payload adapter. EchoStar-18 was transferred to the BAV building on the 12th, hoisted on the Silda the 13th, and encapsulated under the fairing on the 14th of May.
combined operations with the launcher with BRIsat started on the 26th of May, with its flight mating on the payload adapter. After transfer to the berth on the 27th, it was hoisted onto the launcher on the 30th and encapsulated under Silda and fairing on the 31st of May. The Ariane launch readiness review held on Monday authorized the beginning of the final chronology with the launch vehicle transfer to the launch pad in order to be ready to launch today.
Already back in Jupiter, and look at that beautiful Ariane 5 ECA standing on the pad, and what's even more beautiful, just to its right, we are all green right now. At under 4 minutes to go to launch, everything is green, and again in Kourou, green means go. Look at how the weather has cleared up. You know, I'm a NASCAR fan. They'd call this Bill France weather. Clearing up for the launch this evening. And we never had a problem with weather tonight. It was yesterday that weather was the issue. But it looks like we're moving rapidly now toward the 3-minute mark in the countdown. Again, history tonight being made with this historic heavy payload, over 10,730 kilos. And again, made up of EchoStar with 6,300 kilos, EchoStar-18 for Dish Network, and BRIsat at 3,540. The remainder, the Silda and the support structures. Again, hats off to the engineers here at the Space Base who have worked so hard to squeeze out additional performance from the Ariane 5 ECA. All of the engineers involved with it. We set a record back on VA 212 back in February 2013. And tonight we break that record by 337 kilos, closing in on the 2-minute mark before the launch this evening. And I'm getting excited because, like I say, I've been here quite a while, and I have been waiting for this moment as we get close to the actual countdown and liftoff. So at the 2-minute mark, you see those two arms surrounding the Ariane 5 in Kourou. They're called the bra. They're not actually holding the 780-ton rocket upright. That's gravity's job. The arms support the fuel lines, which are topping off the liquid propellants. We keep doing that till just before the launch, and then those arms will pull back. Well, they've been waiting a long time, too, and the VIPs are now heading out onto the balcony to watch the launch in the sundown here in Kourou, bathed in sunlight. It is going to be quite a show coming up in a minute, 20 seconds from right now. As the Ariane 5 gets set to go, they're going to be watching it from the balconies. That's 13 kilometers from the Ariane 5 launch site.
Attention pour moins une minute.
There's the announcement we've been waiting for.
Top H0 moins une minute.
We are under 1 minute to go. We welcome everybody from around the world watching the live webcast on Arianespace.com. Greetings to our friends watching at Airbus Defense and Space in Europe, EchoStar and Dish Network. Their headquarters in Inglewood, Colorado, PT Bank Rocket in Jakarta, SSL in Palo Alto, California, Kineas and Arianespace in Paris. All of our industry partners all across Europe. Even my wife, who's waited so long for me to get back to Denver. Only moments to go, and we will hear the famous countdown in French from Kourou. Enjoy the show.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain.
Yes. There you go. Liftoff. Finally.
Allumage des AP, décollage.
And off it goes. Yes.
Paramètres à bord sont nominaux.
Wow, that is beautiful. See, it's performing a roll maneuver by the position of the boosters, you can tell. Those boosters making, I think, 98, 99, or providing 98, 99% of the thrust. The Volcan is...
One for the history books, and in the memory of the late, great Muhammad Ali, the rumble in the Amazon jungle tonight is that mighty Ariane 5
you can see the
ECA as she
condensation.
roars into the sky above Kourou. My 10th time that I've called a launch takes my breath away every time. We're 57 seconds into the flight. Ariane 5 breaking the sound barrier here in Kourou, and the massive Jupiter facility beginning to shake right now as the launcher roars out over Devil's Island, made famous by the movie Papillon. 1,300 tons of thrust breaking the Ariane 5, free from the bonds of Earth's gravity. 90% of that power coming now from the two boosters, each one 31 meters tall, 100 feet. They're burning 240 tons of solid propellant in 2 minutes, more than 2 tons a second. When the boosters have done their job, and that'll be in less than a minute from now, Ariane will be 70 kilometers in the sky, traveling more than a mile a second, faster than a speeding bullet. And you can see on the bottom of the screen the numbers, pertinent numbers for tonight's launch. And that data being collected from Galiata tracking station on a big hill behind us here at Jupiter. Engineers there evaluating all the data in real time. 2:07 into the flight. The VIP's still on the patio, and they're waiting for the burnout and jettison of the twin solid rocket boosters coming up in about 3 seconds from right now.
Separation.
And you will be hearing the announcement of the separation of the EAPs, the boosters.
See that.
And the boosters will have done their job. They will fall away, and we won't need them any longer. And that will be occurring. There you see the animation. We've now lost about 600 tons worth of weight. The mass of the launcher, 180 tons, and all that's gone in about 2 minutes. The lighter we get, the faster we go. The next major event will be the jettisoning of the fairing. We'll see that in a moment. It will be gone in a few seconds. And it has protected the satellites on the ground, and in the early minutes of the flight into the sky, there you see the animation of the quaff or the fairing going away. We just lost 2 more tons. There's some great video from an earlier mission showing what it looks like as that fairing drops away. And the launcher is now 118 kilometers above Earth. We're technically in space. We still have a long, long way to go, however. I call your attention to the animation. You see all the numbers on the bottom of the screen. And we also will be watching the desired flight path in a moment on the upper right-hand side of the screen. See that curve and the green dot? We want to follow that curve perfectly. That means our performance is nominal. More key officials at Jupiter, Bruno Girard, the Vice President of Ariane Space responsible for the establishment here in French Guiana, Joël Donadel, the head of ESA's offices here in Kourou, and Bernard Chamoul, the head of CSG for Kines. The main cryogenic stage, or EPC, now burning. It burns for about 9 minutes. And the EPC is really just a huge fuel tank. It holds 150 tons liquid oxygen, 25 tons of liquid hydrogen. That engine gulping 320 kilograms, 700 pounds of fuel a second. That's 500 times more than a jet engine. You know, I have absolutely no idea what the fuel mileage is on the Ariane 5, but it is built for speed and power, and in that arena, who cares about fuel economy? It is a workhorse. And there you see that we're moving out over the Atlantic Ocean. You know, I live in Denver, and one of the questions I frequently get from people is, why do I come here to French Guiana for a rocket launch? Why do you come down here? Well, the space base is only 500 kilometers, 300 miles north of the equator. The Earth rotates faster at the equator than it does, say, at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Thus, the Ariane 5 gets a huge boost from the Earth's rotation. This allows satellite operators in many cases to launch heavier payloads, add more fuel to their birds, and increase their operational life. And that generates more revenue. Just one more reason that Ariane Space is the undisputed champion of the commercial satellite launch industry. Oh, you know, and another question people ask, what about hurricanes? Well, I'm not a meteorologist, but the European Space Agency evaluated locations for the base. One thing they learned, hurricanes in the Western Hemisphere don't drop this low. Look at those pictures of the replay, just 6 minutes, 28 seconds into flight as the Ariane 5 roared off the launch pad here in French Guiana. And, you know, seeing it roar off the pad reminds me of one other thing. You can never say never, but French Guiana doesn't have earthquakes. So the only time the earth shakes down here is when that happens, which is one of the huge Ariane 5s or the Soyuz or the Vegas take to the sky from CSG. We are right on track at the 7-minute mark, and the rocket is currently 165 kilometers above the Earth. We're moving on out at great speed tonight. Final target 9.3 kilometers per second. And, you know, a few more interesting facts. EchoStar-18 and BRIsat represent the 533rd and 534th satellites to be launched by Ariane Space. They also are the 119th and 120th satellites to be placed into geostationary transfer orbit by the workhorse of the fleet. The Ariane 5 has been picked up by our tracking station in Natal, Brazil. Everything functioning perfectly right now. Tonight we're using 5 tracking stations. Here in Kourou, it's Gilat, up on a large hill just south of us here at the launch base. Natal in Brazil, Ascension Island in the mid-Atlantic. The west coast of Africa, we've got Libreville. And on the east coast of Africa, we have Malindi. Ariane sends data to those ground stations, and that tells us how the flight is progressing in real time. And you know, one of the secrets behind the whole thing is the teams evaluate absolutely every aspect of the mission, and they share that with all the customers. And every single time we fly this complex machine gets better and better, and the Ariane 5 ECA has definitely proven itself. Our next major event, the cutoff of the main stage, or the EPC, and there's the graphic image and the announcement from the DDO. The main stage has now completed its job, and the upper stage has begun its mission. There you see images from a previous flight. You notice the little flash of light there? Well, the ignition, just before ignition, small rockets on our side of the upper stage fired, and that allowed the upper stage to move away, and then we safely ignite its engine and continue on the journey. Of course, immediately we dumped off those small rockets because, again, the lighter rockets fly faster. And we will now burn the upper stage, or the ESC, for about 16 minutes. Time now to hear about EchoStar-18.
That was unexpected. I don't get too well with unexpected. That was the Ariana.
Since 1980, Dish has been a leader in the satellite TV industry, offering the best value in entertainment. From its modest entrepreneurial beginnings to the evolution of its consumer pay TV service, Dish has earned a reputation for award-winning innovation, programming excellence, and superior customer care. The company that started with Charlie and Candy Ergen, Jim DeFranco, and a dream has grown to approximately 18,000 employees and nearly 14 million customers. Headquartered in Englewood, Colorado, Dish uses multiple digital broadcast uplink centers located around North America to receive signals from hundreds of programmers around the world. Those signals are cleaned, compressed, and encrypted before being sent to Dish satellites orbiting 22,000 miles up in space. From there, the signals are sent to customers' homes, the equivalent of 4 trips around the Earth in the matter of just a few seconds. Dish's state-of-the-art service comes to life for customers with its full line of best-in-class equipment. Anchored by the revolutionary and most award-winning DVR ever, the Hopper, Dish takes the whole home entertainment experience to new heights.
Hopper was designed to leverage both the excellence and capability of our satellite fleet and merge that with the emerging mobile and internet technologies. So when we developed Hopper 1, for example, we gave consumers truly unexpected features like Primetime Anytime, the capability to automatically record all their 4 primetime channels using a single tuner, so they would never miss out on any primetime show.
Oh, Trump.
And Hopper has continued to evolve. With Hopper 3, we now have 16 tuners, and customers can watch and record up to 16 shows at the same time. That is truly a conflict-free TV experience. And Hopper 3 also comes preloaded with popular apps like Netflix, Vivo, and Pandora. Hopper 3 is also the first major pay TV DVR that offers universal search that integrates search across live TV, DVR, on-demand, and even Netflix. Hopper 3 also has a special feature called Sports Bar Mode at Home, which allows consumers to take 4 channels and combine it into a single 4K video output. So you can watch up to 4 shows or 4 games at once, all in high definition, all on the same screen. Customers can also take their entire Hopper experience on the go with Dish Anywhere and Hopper Go that lets them watch live TV, DVR, and on-demand content, both with and without an internet connection. Many of these great features and capabilities of the Hopper 3 rely on the excellence and capacity of our satellite fleet. For example, we had to modify our uplink systems, our satellite systems, and the Hopper 3 software to be able to deliver primetime anytime. And when we talk about 4K video, our satellite fleet enables customers to watch the highest definition of video, no matter where they live, without having to worry about bandwidth constraints at home.
With the launch of Echo-18, Dish looks forward to continuing its leadership in providing the absolute best value, unmatched technology, and a superior customer experience to millions of consumers.
We're back at Jupiter. All continues to go well. And we see that we're almost over to Africa right now. Amazing how fast the Ariane 5 moves out. The 4th satellite that EchoStar has entrusted to Arianespace. And as you heard, the 6.3-ton satellite will provide enhanced services to nearly 14 million DBS customers of Dish Network LLC. And you see many of the officials there from EchoStar and Dish Network. And again, some great award-winning technology that they bring to the marketplace. And of special note, this satellite also carries a spot beam covering Cuba, which will usher in new TV options for that island nation. 14 minutes and 45 seconds into the mission. All is well, and time now to take a look at BRIsat, making history tonight itself.
This is our homeland, made of thousands of islands, A land with dynamics of its own, from city areas to remote areas, facing challenges together. And here we are, born and raised between diversity of dynamics, areas and human characters, working hard with the children of the nation, committed to reach the unreachable areas, to serve people with outlets spreading throughout the archipelago, experiencing the pulse of transaction with extensive BRI e-channels, grateful for being your personal financing assistant with the largest ATM network in the country, breaking transaction limitations by providing EDCs to the most remote places, exploring the country with eBus BRI, reaching inaccessible areas with a fleet of mobile micro-banking vehicles. It's an honor for us to serve you every day, no matter where you are. Our achievements are reflections of our commitment. We never stop to serve better. We're confident to be a problem solver to Indonesia's banking access, to bring financial inclusion to all people. We proudly present BRIsat, the first and only satellite owned by a bank. In collaboration with Space System Laurel, a satellite manufacturer from US, and Arianespace as provider of rocket launchers. The rocket is planned to be launched in June 2016 from Kourou in French Guiana, and this Ariane 5 rocket will launch BRIsat into space. This is the future of Bank BRI. Better banking services for all, to reach the unreachable, to offer advanced services in urban and remote areas all over Indonesia, to respond to challenges, to fulfill needs, to state our mission. We exist to connect Indonesia. Bank BRI, the national bank that serves all equally.
Returning to Jupiter, and as we close in on the 18-minute mark of the flight, all continues to go perfectly. The Ariane 5 and its valuable payloads have been acquired by our tracking station in Libreville, located on the west coast of Africa. Amazing, 20 minutes to go from Kourou to Africa. Another first tonight, we're launching 2 satellites made by one manufacturer. Arianespace's longtime customer, SSL of Palo Alto, California. The first SSL bird to fly on Ariane was Intelsat 5F7. That was back in 1983. In all, 51 satellites from SSL or its predecessors have been orbited by Arianespace. Space Systems L'Oréal is a leading provider of commercial satellites with broad experience to support satellite operators all across the broad range of innovative space-related missions. The company designs and manufactures spacecraft for services such as direct-to-home television, video content distribution, broadband internet, mobile communications, and Earth observation. And you know, we have 10 more SSL satellites that are on the order book right now for launching. Azure Space 2IS 38, BSat 4A, Intelsat 36, JSat 15, also SkyMuster 2 for Australia, Star 1 D1, and 4 of the SkySat satellites. A lot more left to come for SSL. Well, we're closing in on 20 minutes in. Time to hear more from SSL.
Space Systems L'Oréal.
The launch of EchoStar-18 and BRIsat represents the first dual launch for two SSL-built satellites on an Ariane 5 launch vehicle. The spacecraft had a combined launch weight of 9,840 kilograms. The larger satellite, EchoStar-18, will be launched from the upper position. BRIsat will launch from the lower position. Both geostationary satellites are based on SSL's 1300 platform, which provides high power and extensive flexibility while supporting a wide range of sophisticated technology options for SSL's customers. SSL has formed strong and lasting partnerships worldwide, delivering spacecraft that provide a broad range of services and capabilities that help its customers expand their businesses. In today's environment of evolving demand for telecommunications infrastructure, satellites built by SSL help deliver entertainment, information, and critical data around the world. SSL designed and built BRIsat for BRI, the leading bank in Indonesia, and the first bank to own and operate a satellite. BRIsat will enable BRI to expand secure banking communications for 10,600 branches, 237,000 electronic channel outlets, and 53 million customers across the Indonesian archipelago, including locations where banking services were previously unavailable. With SSL's dedication and commitment to the BRIsat program, the satellite was successfully delivered on time. Will be operated by EchoStar, with spacecraft telemetry, tracking, and control services provided by multiple spacecraft operation centers. And congratulates BRI, EchoStar, Dish, Arianespace, and the SSL team on the launch of two highly capable satellites that bring services that will improve lives and make the world a better place.
How they go into all this trouble just to make these extra things for this one launch?
And as we return to Jupiter, we're at the 24.5-minute mark, basically, into the flight. All continues to go really well. We're now being tracked by the Malindi station on the east coast of Africa, under 25 minutes, and we are nearly all the way across Africa. As I said earlier, Ariane 5 is built for speed and power, and right now there's no way Superman could even catch the Ariane 5. ECA is over 9 kilometers per second now, and 630 kilometers into the sky, 9.34 kilometers per second. 9.35 kilometers per second, and really moving out. The powered portion of the flight is now ending, and the need for that powered flight has basically ended. You heard the announcement by the DDO. The events will begin to happen pretty rapidly now. We've entered what we call the ballistic stage. Engineers here call it the SCAR phase, but for us normal people, let's refer to it as the space ballet. The powerful computers that we talked about a little earlier on board the Ariane 5 are making the calculations to align the vehicle perfectly now for the next steps. So let's assess what's happening here. We're high enough. We're going fast enough. The need for raw power is over. Now it's all about pinpoint precision. This is where the guys with the pocket protectors come into play. The real science in rocket science. The upper stage has a brain, a powerful computer in the vehicle assembly bay called the VEB. Even more than being a computer, it's a whole flight management system. And it can make decisions. It's extremely smart. It takes into account information flowing in from all of the systems of the rocket, from the fuel tank, the engine, you name it. There are different options. It will always choose the one that maximizes the success of the mission. I'd love to have it in Vegas with me, right, when I'm gambling. The launcher needs to know right now where it is, where it has to go, and how it's going to get there. That's what we call GNC, Guidance, Navigation, and Control. It's one of the primary subsystems that are involved with the launcher. And you see that we are indeed very high right now, 1,020 kilometers into the sky. And we're definitely going fast enough for the mission this evening at 27:50, almost 28 minutes into the flight. And the very first step of this orbital ballet that we talk about is to orient the launcher for the release of EchoStar-18 for Dish Network LLC. And every once in a while you'll see little flashes of light in the animation here. Small rockets on the side of the launcher are being fired to adjust the orientation. Very fine orientation. And again, this is rocket science that we're involved with. And needless to say, many, many years of hard work by everybody at EchoStar. Coming down to the next few seconds, and a set of springs will eject EchoStar-18 at exactly the right moment. And that's going to be coming up in about 20, 30 seconds from right now. And I know those guys work hard. I work for a company called BRIsat, and I'm right across the freeway from the Dish Network offices, and a lot of those folks. So they do a great job, and they've been in the industry for many, many years, pioneers.
Séparation du satellite EchoStar-18.
And there it is, at right on time, about 29:15. You can see some of the smiles that when I look down here from the balcony, the VIP area, I can see the smiles of people at Kourou. But the applause traditionally is withheld until both satellites have been separated. EchoStar-18 will be used by Dish Network, as we said, Dish Network LLC, to provide enhanced services to nearly 14 million Dish Network customers. On a personal note, as I said, I've been in the satellite industry in the United States for about 30 years now. I've known Charlie Ergen and the key leaders of both EchoStar and Dish Network since their formation. And yet again, another star twinkles in the evening sky for those folks tonight with EchoStar-18. So now the next act of the space ballet begins. We need to turn the composite away from the direction that we just sent EchoStar-18. Then we are going to prepare to jettison the Silda. And the Silda is that black structure that's sort of tough to see against the darkness of the Earth there, because we are in the dark part of the planet right now. But it's a small fairing, and it's the secret sauce that makes dual launch satellite launches possible here in Kourou. It has protected BRIsat and provided the base upon which we mounted EchoStar-18. And we want to be sure that we send it away from either of those two satellites. And Arianespace uses 7 different versions of the Silda. They range in size from 4.9 to 6.4 meters. They weigh between 400 and 530 kilograms. So these things are pretty big pieces of metal, okay? And when the Silda does separate at about 34:30 into the flight, BRIsat will be exposed to space for the first time. And by the way, I mentioned the sizes of the Sildas. We're using the big one tonight on this mission. As you heard earlier, BRIsat was built by SSL for PT Bank Rakyat, one of the largest state-owned banks in Indonesia. And if you remember your geography, Indonesia is a massive country. I mentioned earlier that about 17,000 islands. Well, this bank has 10,600 optional or operational branches across those islands, nearly 237,000 electrical channel outlets, or I think we call them ATMs in the United States probably. In all, 53 million Indonesian citizens use that bank, and obviously the only technology that could ever make it possible to pull them all together is satellite. You know, it's amazing to consider how big modern satellites are. You might recall the first man-made satellite placed in orbit was Sputnik. That was on October 4th of 1957, and it was 58 centimeters, 24 inches in diameter, a ball. It weighed 83 kilograms, 184 pounds. All it could do really is send out a beep tone, but it represented an amazing leap in technology, and that little beep was a spark that ignited the space race and focused the attention on to satellite communications. Many of the people you're seeing right now probably got their start or their dream in the satellite industry because of those early days of the space race. Well, compared to Sputnik tonight, EchoStar-18 was a giant. It stood 8.3 meters tall. That's over 25 feet. When deployed, the solar panels, I didn't have the exact measurement, but over 30 meters. That's a lot. And an incredible 13 kilowatts of power for that satellite, 61 high-powered transponders. BRIsat, we call it the smaller of two satellites, but again, it stood or stands 5.6 meters high. You know, we talked about Sputnik. Sputnik ran out of power, went silent 21 days after it was launched. It re-entered the atmosphere and burnt up on January 4th, 1958. So, anyway, there you see it. The Silda sliding away now, and it has been separated, and for the first time, BRIsat is exposed to space, and very soon we'll see sunshine for the first time. And we're now over, 2,500 kilometers above Earth, and we're just under 8 kilometers per second, 8 times the speed of a bullet, basically. and some 13,000+ kilometers in space. So we are now out basically over the Indian Ocean between Africa and Australia. Yet another act of the space race now begins, or the space ballet rather. The onboard computers are calculating the exact changes necessary for dropping off BRIsat. And obviously, we don't want to collide with either EchoStar-18 for Dish Network or the SILDA that we just dropped off. And again, you don't want to bump into something in space. That makes for a bad day. More rocket science and orbital physics coming into play right now, high over the Indian Ocean. The space ballet continues as we prepare for that separation of BRIsat. Again, that's going to happen about 42 minutes into the flight, some 4,300 kilometers above the Indian Ocean at a speed about 7 kilometers per second. Not only do we have to orient the satellite composite in a safe and correct direction, we have to take one more step. Each one of the customers have specific requirements for the insertion of their satellites into geostationary transfer orbit, GTO. Both BRIsat and EchoStar-18 ask Arianespace to spin up their satellites, so to speak, before separation. That process will begin shortly. For BRIsat, it will have what is known in the business as a transversal spin rate of 1.5 degrees per second. There comes the pocket protector and the rocket science again here, right? But that will be the spin rate when the computers in the vehicle equipment bay say that it's okay, and they release the satellite to begin its life in space. And the information that you see down the bottom of the screen here and all of this data, it's flowing back here to Jupiter, to something called the CVI. And a number of people are following and analyzing the key flight data. They report to Ariane 5's flight status, or they give the flight status, to the team that's back here at Jupiter, all those guys that are down in the so-called fishbowl in front of us here. The CVI is headed by a person by the name of Nathalie Philippe, and the Jupiter Mission Control Center is in constant contact with all the facilities that are necessary for launching and following the Ariane 5 rocket. The displays at the Galliot facility allow us to check the main parameters concerning propulsion, piloting, and trajectory. And they also provide the customers a first round of information, which is called an orbital diagnosis when separation actually occurs. The complete post-analysis performed about a week after the launch. So we are closing in now. We're hit the 39-minute mark since the Ariane 5 ECA roared off the pad in the sunset of the Amazon jungle. And the rocket science of the orbital ballet continues. The upper stage and BRIsat are nearly in the correct attitude and configuration necessary for us to send BRIsat on its way. We are, about 3 minutes away from the separation of BRIsat. Probably 3 of the longest minutes the folks at BRIsat have ever had. And every time I look at the numbers for Arianespace, it absolutely amazes me. We have just seen EchoStar-18 go on its way. It represented the 533rd satellite to be launched by Arianespace. In a couple of minutes, that number is going to grow to 534 when we successfully separate BRIsat. And I often call the Ariane 5, the Ariane 5 ECA, the heavyweight champion of the commercial launch industry. Well, she's earned that recognition and that title. Tonight, she's placing the 119th and 120th satellites into geostationary transfer orbit since she arrived here at CSG in 2002. You know what is really amazing when you see how this whole thing operates down here. As I said, my 10th time coming to Kourou. Arianespace and its partners make it look so routine. If you think about the many, many parts of this magnificent machine, a lot of them were built in Europe. They're delivered thousands of miles by 2 specialized boats. The satellites are flown in by massive cargo jets into Cayenne, French Guiana. They're then placed on very special trucks, and they are delivered to the space base about 60 kilometers away. And then a full month's worth of work has to go in to test and integrate and prepare for a launch. And it's absolutely amazing how time and time and time again, because of attention to detail and professionalism, the folks at Arianespace and all of their partners make it look so very, very easy. And it's real rocket science. Anyway, high above the Indian Ocean, BRIsat, the first dedicated satellite ever to be launched by a bank, is about to be delivered. Let's hear the announcement coming up in a moment.
Séparation du satellite BRIsat.
Hey, right on time. And now the celebration can begin. And you see it there. The call from the DDO. The celebration is on, and Ariane 5 has delivered again. One can only imagine the thrill being experienced by the officials from both EchoStar and Dish Network, along with the BRIsat. Years of work coming down to the last hour, and they placed a lot of confidence in Arianespace, and the Ariane 5 ECA paid off tonight in a major way, placing them both into GTO, and that's probably one of my favorite times of the whole broadcast when I do these. Watch these individuals shaking hands and enjoying it. Time now